Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of the USFL podcast. I'm the ref, as always, representing Pro Football Newsroom, the number one source in alternative football news. Joined, as always, with my friend Zach from the Gridiron Gallery. And we have a very special guest with us today, former St. Louis BattleHawks guard, current co-host of the afternoon stretch on WNSR, and potential future face of the USFL, Bruno Reagan. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good today, guys. Last day of my weekend, so I'm reveling in it. I'm doing good. Can't complain. Things are looking up. A lot to be excited about.
Good. That's what I like to hear. And, awesome. I'll tell you this. There is no curtains at the USFL podcast. We have to say thank you to Bruno for coming to us for a second take. Second take, guys. We are hitting record this time around. Like I said, there's no curtains here. There is no shame. We're having a good time. But that leads me to how our paths crossed. Again, in the world of sports and a little bit of entertainment, having fun. I guess in the 4 years that we've been running this site, this is probably the funniest thing that's happened as a result of an article. So last Friday on your show, The Afternoon Stretch, you were talking about the USFL, and you kind of were going in your history about how you kind of talked down on them, but now you found out that you had some connections with the league and you might end up playing for them. And I ended up writing this article, and again, your quote it made me laugh my ass off. So I'm going to read it out here. I've talked a lot of trash about the USFL, but I'm probably going to play for them. So right off the bat, how did you find this? What were your initial thoughts? Break it down for us.
Yeah, so a friend of mine that I actually went to college with, Simon Gibbs, he's also in the media space, and he was looking up just some spring football stuff, and I guess that story was, if you Googled XFL or anything about spring football, that was the number one thing to pop up. So he cut it out and posted on Twitter and tagged me in it. He was like, "This is the most Bruno thing ever. I love it," and of course I loved it also. I know. I think there was a little worry on your end, hopefully he doesn't react negatively to. No, I love it. I'm about fun and jokes. Life's too short, man. That was it was fun. It was funny. Straight up.
Now I got to ask you, did anybody from the USFL reach out to you after that? Was anybody upset about that quote?
In my initial talks with some personnel people, they did mention they see my Twitter. And I knew what they were insinuating by that. And I told them I do not regret anything I post on Twitter. I'm a personality. That's how I eat nowadays. And that's the career path I want to go down. But I'm also a ball player deep down. So if you can't differentiate, the personality in the media space from the athletic space, well, maybe it's not a partnership that's going to work out. And I don't need football. That's the thing. I don't need football. I just want to play so bad. So I think we come to an understanding, but it was definitely the first thing that was brought up in my talks with them. It was was the Twitter. So
sticking to your guns. I like that a lot there. You're talking, at this moment, you're not really, as you're saying, you don't need football right now. You're juggling a lot. I know you're wanting to get back into the space, but you're talking, talk show host for, an afternoon program, the afternoon stretch over there in Nashville. Mm-hmm. You also got, of course, your own judo gyms as well that you are helping with. How do you balance all that?
You balance it terribly. I think that's the only way to do it. But I'm young, so I'm young, I'm single, and I've had a lot of opportunities afforded to me to where I can do these things. It's a very privileged thing. I couldn't do the judo gyms with my dad, who has been my coach for a long time, because I live in Clarksville and I drive to Nashville for the gym. Well, to train football, I drive to Mount Juliet. That's an hour. And I had just opened up a new gym in Murfreesboro, so that's another 45 minutes from Nashville, adding on to the Clarksville time. Wow. It can get really crazy during the weeks. It's just trying to. It's different than where I usually am at. I work hard, but there are some days where it's like, hey, I can't come train football today. I have a meeting. I have a meeting about judo. I have a meeting about the gyms. I have a meeting with a sales client for radio. It's just about doing the best you can with it, man. Because I'm not a guy who turns down opportunities. I'm going to take whatever I can get, and if a grandiose opportunity arrives in football or radio, that makes me push the other ones to the side. It is what it is, and that's a good thing, being in so many spaces. So I'm just kind of testing the waters, I guess, on all of them.
So speaking of which, so how does a guy like you get into radio? It seems like you have more of a sports background, but it feels like there's a story to that.
Yeah, I guess it starts with just sports guys want to be in sports. I thought growing up, like unrelated to sports, I liked writing. It was probably the only thing at school I was good at. So I thought I was going to be a journalist. So when I was first getting recruited, I was I was visiting a bunch of the journalism schools at these places. I thought it was interesting to me. I like telling the story, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that sort of transformed into now I want to perform in the space, I guess you could say. I enjoy having fun above all else. I've learned I'm not too serious of a guy, even in some of the most serious situations. Like playing at Notre Dame, I'll be cracking jokes in the huddle, just trying to break the ice, get everyone's nerves down. So that's kind of my thing now is I wanted to be in the space. I didn't want to coach. It's too much of your time. I like doing a lot of different things. So coaching wasn't my thing. So I guess the next best thing was just talking about it in media. And after the XFL opportunity went down, I just sort of, it's just one of those things where, luck is opportunity meets preparation. I've been posting a bunch of my own stuff showing I can talk in front of a camera. Very, very amateur stuff, but it just showed that I was willing to work and be in the space. And Zach Williams, my co-host at the afternoon stretch, brought me on for his weekend show just because he was a big fan of the XFL. We were in Nashville and we had that connection to some Vanderbilt players, both growing up in the area. So we do the weekend show, the afternoon show guy quits, and all of a sudden they need guys. And I don't think we were their first choice, but we swayed them into being the choice. And 25 years old, you're afternoon drive host in a top 40 market. It's really, when the XFL crashed, I was like, if I host my own radio show one day, that would be like, that's the goal. That's the life goal. And then it happens less than a year later. I mean, it's just about taking it and running, I guess.
Well, may I add, they made the correct choice because I'm in Houston and I regularly tune into your show. Now, it may be because you mentioned me by name. I'm not going to lie, but it is a good show nonetheless.
Yeah, we try to have fun. Nashville's a market that has changed a ton in the radio space in the past few years. I feel like back when I was growing up, not 10, 15 years ago, it was a lot more, I guess you could say wild. I guess it's been a lot more corporatized or whatever. There's not a lot of personality in the space, whereas I wanted to kind of fill that void. And there's a lot of people that are like, oh, the Titans should, what should the Titans do today? Reacting to the Titans. That's all the shows combined. I don't want to hear those. I want to hear someone just go, just have fun and go crazy.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that want to be right. I could care less about being right. I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to say what I think, which that's how I met you guys. I say what I think, and sometimes it gets me into trouble, and it doesn't. But it's all the thing about saying these things in the sports world is, you can have a bad sports opinion. It's a sports opinion. It doesn't matter. It's all fun. That's my favorite thing about it.
No, I would love to have something like that, and I love seeing you getting your opportunity with that. Of course, it's funny. I think of that with Nashville, similar deal. Like it's either you're talking Titans football, maybe Predators if you're lucky for hockey, and then country music radio everywhere you can imagine, just because of the city itself. And little anecdote: I have a friend of mine from Jacksonville, Florida. They have a excellent arena football team, but of course, the only thing they talk about is the Jaguars, and it is a pity party 24/7 down there. So you want to talk about wild? It'd be kind of fun to see a little bit of a mix-up there. One question I've had, curious, just I ask players a lot about the jump to professional. I mean, you were an all-SEC player from Vanderbilt. That's Power 5 school and everything of that nature. Jumping, of course, into professional, getting that next step. I mean, you go from consistently playing to then, at least in your case, I'm looking to get to back to that consistent play. How do you manage dealing, or at least saying I'm going to get to that point, just keep on grinding to that step?
Yeah, when you get to such a level, you reach the plateau, obviously. It's like this is something a lot of people can relate to, I guess I can put into words, is a lot of people go to the gym and start weightlifting. Well, eventually, your first 2 years, you start hitting massive gains because your body's, developing the muscle mass, but eventually you have a plateau. Well, in football, it's the same thing. The first 2 years at a new level, I mean, you learn so much, but then you'll reach that plateau to where you can spend a year, 2, 3, and you might not even be getting better. You might be getting slightly worse. That's the unfortunate reality. I have had a unique experience, whereas from college to the pros, I just kept getting better. And luckily enough, I had some unbiased sources. Some of my college coaches were coaching against me in the new XFL. And, I was like, be honest with me. Be honest. How am I playing compared to college? And they're like, you're getting better. It's amazing. So, I think I've just had a lot of, but that's always been me though. I came from a judo and wrestling background. I was never a football player. So I have so much to learn from a mental aspect of the game. I think I really have it down from a center perspective, and reading the DBs, reading the alignment, reading the linebackers, reading all these things. Like I can really manage the offense if I need to, if we have an underwhelming quarterback. But I can also, I'm starting to come into my own with my confidence, my technique, and I got to put that all on display in the XFL against a bunch of former NFL guys, and was able to make a few all league teams from some media outlets. So I obviously didn't get to where I wanted to go, and which was back to the NFL. But personally, I had that peace in my mind where I was like, I knew I could always play with these guys.
Man, here's one other question I have, and you bring it up. We've touched a little. You're very much back. Your personnel is with judo as well. Expertise is what I was meaning to say there. And also wrestling. I did wrestling also in high school. It was funny enough. I had a high school head coach of mine that got me into wrestling. I played center, helping with capabilities there. What was was it judo and wrestling first, then football, or is it the other way around? And I mean, just to explain to the audience, how does that stuff help you in terms of your technique and at least maybe stance play, elements of the game in that sense?
Yeah, I'll go with being a great wrestler isn't going to translate into being a great football player. But I think a lot of what being a great wrestler gives you the opportunity to be a great football player a lot faster than people realize. I mean, you have the balance, you have the leverage. If you're from a successful wrestling program, that space is known for insane work ethic. I was able to, translate that into it. So if you find a coach that can vibe with wrestlers, it's really a partnership that you can make work out as long as they look past, the early faults and the silly things you're going to do. You're going to eventually turn into a heck of a player. But my personal journey with it was when I was 3 years old, I hated daycare. So I acted up and basically got kicked out of daycare. And my dad forced my dad to take me to work with him. And he was the director at a community center in town. Well, they had judo there. I was 3 years old. I walked on the mat because I wanted, I was 3-year-old, saw these guys fighting. And I was like, this is awesome. And that was sort of history. So I stuck with judo my whole life. When I got to middle school, wrestling was obviously a natural part of it. I tried out for baseball and soccer and they both cut me, but wrestling can't cut you. So I was like, let's go. I'm a wrestler now. This is my thing. I ended up having a really successful wrestling career. I was a high school All-American, won state twice, undefeated 2 years. So that was good. But football gave me the opportunity to get an education at Vanderbilt University, which was, something that even a guy who I might not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but I knew what those connections and what that university could do for me. It could be my parents. My parents come from. My mom's from Bolivia. My dad's from East Tennessee. They've jumped social classes to give their kids better lives in such crazy ways. When I saw what Vanderbilt could do for me, I was like, this is a no-brainer. I'm going to go play football at Vanderbilt. And I came in, I wasn't very good, but thanks to my background in judo and wrestling, I got very good, very fast. My teammates were always talking shit about me, making fun of me, like the older guys. They were like, why did we get this kid? And for a lot of things, that's true. Like when I was older and I saw some younger guys, I was like, this kid's not going to make it. And it ended up being true, which is unfortunate. I don't wish that upon anybody, but sometimes you can tell, and those older guys saw that in me. But thankfully, due to the wrestling and judo background, my freshman year, I stole a starting spot, and then it's like, oh God, then all of a sudden they see you have value, and then you're boys for life. So,
pretty awesome to hear, actually. And again, talking about your experience at Vanderbilt, ultimately that led to you landing in the XFL, which I'm sure there's some great stories there, but there's one in particular that I know fans want to hear about is the Bud Light Seltzer celebrations. Like, how did that come together? Like, did you just walk in? There was a bunch of Bud Light Seltzer. We know they were sponsoring the league. Was it something that you were instructed to do? Give us the breakdown.
Yeah, so I can't remember if we were the first game or one of the. I don't think we were the first game. I remember watching some in the hotel, but so I don't think any team really just picked up on it like we did because we won. And I guess the winning team, like we came back into the locker room. I was one of the first guys in there, right behind the QBs. I was so pumped up we won. and there's just a table with, I mean, just as many seltzers as you could imagine. You've probably never seen so many seltzers in the same place. It's something that strikes you a bat too. You're like, seltzer? Like, what's going on? You're like, what's happening? But the guy, I mean, Taylor Heineke and Nick Fitzgerald instantly just, they didn't even, there was no questions asked. So I'm asking these questions, and Nick is banging a seltzer on his head and then biting into it with his tooth. And I mean, it goes absolutely viral. And then the rest of the guys get in the locker room and see that, and then we start going crazy. The league fined, either the league got fined or the team got fined $10,000 for the damages to that locker room. But I think they were fine with paying that, seeing how much reach that whole thing got. And that's why the XFL, it was those little things that made the XFL so different, such a pleasure to be a part of. Was they saw those moments and they weren't like, oh, we need to slap the BattleHawks on the wrist. It was celebrated. They were like, yeah, they're like, yes, viewership, yes, go.
Oh yeah, well, I mean that's one of the I think that's one of the biggest social media aspects that people remember with the XFL. You're either gonna have the beer snake in DC, or you're gonna have the Seltzer Sellies that started out in St. Louis. As well as the BattleHawks just being a legendary franchise for them, and the rallying cry itself. Actually, that's another piece you've been in the news for, at least online, is you've talked about the BattleHawks at some length. I don't know how much you have, but I mean, everyone wants to know about where are they at?
BattleHawks. So I actually broke some I guess you could say news, because I'm a personality, but I've broken a few things in my time. I have people that will contact me, and I guess I'm one of the more connected players from the XFL and spring football space. I had talked to a guy who was a very reliable source, and the thing was, the league is starting to outsource work towards things like turf management, field management, sure, painting, construction. The league, the XFL isn't going to hire a million people and do that under the covers. They have to outsource that work. Well, a little birdie told me, and there were 10 locations on this little bite I got, which was interesting because the XFL is going to only have 8, but it made sense because they eventually want to expand to 10. So doing some back-to-back and back research, I cross-referenced it with some other guys. I was like, are you hearing the same thing? They're like, I was hearing the exact same thing. So I was like, if everyone's hearing the same thing, I'm going to break it. So I figured what I heard was some work was being done in St. Louis, and I was confident enough in, they are going to have a team back if the XFL is back. Now, is the XFL going to come back? I think that's the big thing, because they are always trying. There's so much that can happen within a year. Redbird Capital can just be like, we don't see a profitable thing coming from this. Boom, X-nay, right? But if the XFL does come back, I'm 100% sure the BattleHawks are coming back.
Absolutely, and I mean here's the fascinating part of it is now the talk is because I mean the XFL's there. Obviously, we're bringing you on to talk USFL. But that dynamic of those two being around, if all things pan out, it's a fascinating dynamic that we'll be seeing at least next year, as long as this first league that's playing in roughly 2 months does get off the ground and fully gets through its first season. So plenty of stuff still to discuss. And you entered into the draft player pool for the player selection. They call it player selection. It's a draft in nature is what they're doing. So, I mean, are you kind of just sitting in kind of waiting to be taxied into seeing what happens next, or what's the deal now?
There's just so much unknown still. And it's getting close to game time, and there's a lot of unknown. Are they going to draft players? What happens if they draft somebody and that guy's like, I'm not playing anymore? They're going to have superlative draft spots. It's the same thing with me too. I'm in the pool and I'm dedicated to play and I want to play, but I haven't seen the contract yet. I was told I was going to get a contract, and be able to, gauge that, and probably, who knows if they just didn't send it to me because they don't want me breaking how much they're going to pay or something. But there's still a lot of moving factors that will determine, if me or a lot of guys play, that Fox needs to sort out from a corporate level. So we're still waiting on that. It is interesting dynamic because what can I play in the USFL, then go play in the XFL, or is the USFL going to have a year-long lockdown contract? We don't know these things yet. There's just so much. So when people are saying, and I know it's kind of with tongue in cheek, where you're like the future face of the USFL. If I could play in the USFL, that'd be great. But I have to do what's best for me first, and that's still yet to be seen what that is. And I'm constantly looking forward to it every day. Someone coming to me with news, the USFL itself coming to me with the news, or someone else breaking it. I would like to know.
So speaking of things, so you talked about some of the things we don't know. Let's kind of shift to some of the things that we do know in the USFL. And I have a question, and I think I might know the answer, but we do know all 8 head coaches in the league now. So I'm going to run through them. but I want to get your pick. If you had a choice, which one would you like to play for? So for the Stallions, we got Skip Holtz, Houston Gamblers, Kevin Sumlin, Philadelphia Stars, Bart Andrus, Pittsburgh Maulers, Kirby Wilson, Michigan Panthers, Jeff Fisher, the Generals, Mike Riley, Breakers, Larry Fedora, and the Bandits, Todd Haley. Of that list, and again, I think I might know which one you're going to choose here, but of that list, is there a pick of one that you'd like to play for the most?
Yeah, if you showed, I've grown up and I've been a fan of football my whole life. And if you showed 9-year-old Bruno a picture of Jeff Fisher and old Bruno right beside each other in a football setting, 9-year-old Bruno would have gone crazy. Now, if he would have asked, "Where's the Titans logos? Are you on the Titans?" And it'd be like, "No, we're in a different thing, son." But I think me and it would just be a full circle type thing to play for a guy like Jeff Fisher. I mean, legendary in our city. I know he gets a bunch of rap for the memeing and stuff like that, but when I've seen a few polls, whereas who's the biggest hired, who's drawn the most attention. It was definitely Jeff Fisher. He's a guy who's been chomping at the bit to get back to coaching. I have a little connection with him too, I think, because the guy who goes before me on the radio, George Plaster, is good friends with Jeff Fisher. Been in the city for a long time, so there's a lot of things that point towards me. I think Jeff Fisher likes bigger O-linemen that love to run the ball. That's me. So if I had to personally choose, I think that would work out well for me, and that'd be an exciting thing to play for. But I have connections with other coaches too. So if I had to, just off the top, young Bruno would definitely choose a Jeff Fisher style approach, because that would make young Bruno's day.
Nice. They've been promising high. Yeah, I mean, they've been promising high scoring or high quality play. You can still get high scores, of course, through a run game, of course. And I know that always equates to passing. Here's something I want to know from a player's stance. So, it's going to be played in a hub. They're playing in Birmingham. So even hypotheticals here, you get drafted to any team that's not the Stallions. You go to the hub city. What is it from a player? Like, say you have all this lineup and you're said, well, we're going to Birmingham for like 3 months and some change. What's your mindset there?
Personally, I think I differ with 90% of players. I love it. I love hub cities. The fans aren't going to love it, right? Because they want their teams in their cities. But for me, all I hear is no travel. And that's awesome. You're telling me I get to show up an hour before the game, warm up, play, and then just go home all in the same day every single week. Yeah, that's dope. I love that. As part of even like fan numbers, that's not my issue. And personally, I don't care. You're talking about how every game would be a home game unless you're playing for Birmingham, which I guess it would be cool being a part of the Birmingham team when, you're probably going to have that home, quote unquote, home field advantage. But I played at Vanderbilt, guys. It was a away game for me every week. So it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. Personally, the first thing I heard of with the hub thing was no travel, and I was like, dude, that is awesome. Personally, I like that.
Yeah, that's not bad. I've been hearing, this is just me on opinion of the city. I've heard Birmingham is definitely, one of our buddies, Scott Amson's told me that it's definitely evolved to be very much a nice a very great place to go visit. And they're going to be having fans all over the place. So, I mean, player-fan interaction, I feel, would be a thing that could happen at that point quite often.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to – something I've been joking around with my buddies is like, well, how is it going to work after games? Like, are we going to have to declare like team bars? Like, because we can't have teams going we can't have teams going to the same bar, right? What if there's 3 teams and one of them just lost? That can't happen. So that's going to be a nice little social see, that's a thing the USFL just heard, and they're like, oh, we didn't even think of that. Because last thing you need is a team-on-team bar fight.
Oh my God! I'm depicting it right now. You see, for example, bring up old rivalries like the Generals and Bandits come together. A game goes sour, step down into like Uptown or something, and things are still a little tense after said affair.
I mean, even the hotels too. I know they have deals with hotels, but it'd be crazy. It's like, all right, you all just played a game. We're gonna take the same bus back to the same hotel. That's some logistic, because I don't care if it's backyard football. And these are the type of dudes that play football. No, they're not going to come together and be like, hey, it's spring football, it's all a joke, haha. It's like, no, if you dogged a guy on the field, he's going to look for you afterwards, no matter what level. So that's going to be some fun things to see how it point. Dude, I'm going to go back to my room and play video games, I'm going I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna do my job. I'm gonna love playing, and then I'm gonna relax. That's me. But that's just something the league's got to figure out.
Well, that's what I like to hear. I mean, I think we covered everything we wanted to. Zach, is there anything I'm missing here?
No, honestly, I think that's that's most of it. Actually, I got one more. I just thought of this too. Bruno, the USFL, it's taking a similar vein the way XFL 2.0 did in terms of, like, say, 2-year eligibility from high school. You know, they are offering a educational pathway program via strategic education. I know that this wouldn't apply to you as much, but I mean, thinking back to, say, Vanderbilt, I know prestigious university, of course, but as a player, do you give that a chance and think about that? It's a different era too with the NIL, so I understand the question isn't exactly accurate compared to back then. Mm-hmm. But I mean, what if you're a player looking at that? How do you pick and choose that? Like, what situation could you see that working?
Maybe the question went over my head, but is this in regards to a guy like me where I could go back and get an education?
More if you wanted to go back, I guess, or more if you were leaving school early. Like, say you were there for a few years, you don't like the options of transfer portal, doesn't seem viable. I'll jump to pro.
Okay. So there are a lot of guys in the transfer portal limbo right now. Decent football players that maybe don't want to go to the right, like they're going in the wrong situation. I do think it's interesting how the USFL is attacking transfer portal guys. Now, I do think it comes from also a selfish point of view where they know they can get away with not paying a lot. Mm-hmm. That's a personal point of mine that I'm scared of until I see the numbers. But I do think it's a great opportunity for portal guys, and you're going to get a lot of good talent that way. For a guy like me, man, all that school stuff doesn't matter. I graduated, I got my degree, and I ain't never doing nothing like that again. But yeah, it's an interesting thing with the league. As long as if they don't use it as an excuse to pay, like just pay nothing, I think that's an advantage the league has for sure.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully we'll get those details soon. I know you've been chomping at the bit. We're definitely chomping at the bit, so we'll be digging through it together, hopefully.
Yep.
Sooner rather
we'll let
later.
you know if we find it, and you know what? You let us know if you find it.
Well, I'm expecting it. I'm expecting it from the very top, so it could be any day now.
Chop, man! Come on.
Yeah.
Where are you, Eric Shanks? Where are you, Brian?
Yeah. But again, thanks for joining us twice. In fact, we really appreciate it. You're a stand-up guy. Like I said, I'm going to continue listening to your show, and anybody who's out there that hasn't given it a chance, go check it out. The afternoon stretch, Monday through Friday, WNSR. Excuse me. What are the hours that airs again?
4 to 6 every weekday.
Sign you guys up on
quality.
That 4 to 6.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. And you might get some USFL or XFL nuggets sprinkled in there. But I'll tell you this, I'll end it off right here. So Zach and we're planning on coming out to Birmingham for that week 1. I think we're calling it spring stock. We've noticed all the spring football fans are coming out to one area. We're coming out as well. We're throwing a tailgate party. So if you are out there, we're going to have to meet up at a bar. First round's at me. And I'll tell you this, I'm bringing a framed version of that quote. I'm signing it. You're signing it. We're getting signed up.
That would be amazing. And this is the best sell I've had to the USFL that I've heard so far is this little interaction we'll have. So I hope it does work out, man. I hope they meet my number. I hope they have a great product. I hope I'm there. That would be amazing because I'm ready to play. And I hope that this works out and I see you guys there. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Sure. In any case, I'm glad to have talked to you on this. That's one thing for sure. I'm happy to get to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. No problem.
Mm-hmm. Hey, good talking to you guys, and thanks everybody for joining. We'll see you again next week on the USFL podcast.